Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's Carol here at Aakash Journals, and I'm going to make a start on this little wreath embroidery for my Wreath fabric journal. This is the last of the large wreaths, and I've only got these two little ones left after I've done this one. So that little one and that little one. I say this one is the large one. It's only about 3 inches across, as most of the other wreaths are. These are about an inch or maybe an inch and a half in diameter. So I'm going to stitch this one. There were previous wreaths, and if the whole series is new to you, please check out my playlist because there will be a video there on each of the little wreaths that I've embroidered to date. So as you can see here, I'll just hold it up to the camera for you. As you can see here, I've made a start on the basic outline of the wreath. Normally I have worked that in a split back stitch, but for this time I thought I would work it in stem stitch, which is another brilliant stitch for doing curves. And I'm working it in a single strand of DMC thread, as you can see, 680. And for these little pieces here, where they're curved, I'll continue to work those in stem stitch. Where they're straight, such as that little one or that little one, I'll just do a couple of straight stitches. Now, when I've referred to this one in the past, this particular design, I always thought that these were beech leaves, but again, when I've looked closely at it, which I really should have done before I even started talking on camera about this design, I think these are brambles. And the reason I think that is because I thought these might have been berries, but the more I look at the actual stems, there's little barbs on them, which are little thorns. So I think these might be blackberry brambles. So anyway, I'm going to do some stitching on camera today. So I'm going to drop the camera down a little bit so that you can see what I'm doing, and I'll just do a few stitches up there because, you know, stem stitch is a very, very basic stitch, so I'm sure you're all very familiar with that. So let me drop the camera down and do some stitching for you. So as I say, this is just a very basic stitch, stem stitch. You can stitch it in two motions. You can go down and then come up from the reverse. I try to do it in one motion like this, and I'm trying to make my stitches fairly big because I don't want around the outside to be particularly thick. I want it nice and delicate. As with all the other designs, they have been marked out with a Friction marker pen and will iron away when the embroidery is done. So I'm taking probably about 4 or 5 strands of the fabric thread, or weave of the fabric thread, so quite a big stitch for me. I'm just going to work the outline all the way around and then go in and do these little pieces individually afterwards. I think I'll probably do something like closed herringbone stitch or fish stitch for the leaves. Not too sure yet. I'll see how they go once I get going. My stitching here doesn't have to be exactly on the design because that's the very nature of a bramble, isn't it? Or a twiggy bit like this. So if I weave around a little bit, it's not too bad. And I've got a little bit of a knot there. So I'm just going to pull that out. There we go. And that's happening because this end of my thread is beginning to feather or open up. So if I just snip that away, it should stop it happening until it starts to feather again, that is. Apologies about the state of my hands, in particularly my nails, but I've been doing a lot of heavy gardening of late. and it takes its toll on my hands, as you can imagine, so please excuse the state of them. There we go. It's a lovely stitch to do. You can just relax and stitch away. You don't really have to think, and especially for something like this where you don't have to be 100% accurate on your lines. And as I've said, with all of these embroideries, I chose to do very, very simple designs, very simple stitches, because I wanted to create this little wreath embroidery and stitch it at night whilst I'm watching television. So as you can see, I've come to a leaf here. The design does go on there a little bit, so I'm just going to put in an odd couple of straight stitches there. Now you could carry on and stitch the stem stitch underneath the leaf design if you wanted to. I'm not going to do that. I'm quite happy to stop and start my design on either side of the leaves. Beautiful day here in the UK. It's about 30 odd degrees today, which is so unusual for us here in the UK. Even when it's summer, we very rarely get temperatures like that, or certainly not here in Lancashire. So it's lovely outside. Sun's shining. My cats are flaked out on the lawn. They're enjoying themselves. My chickens, I've got a couple of Peking bantams, and they are tucked away under the hedgerow in the shade where it's cool. I'm just going to finish this one off here and go on to this side here. We do have a broody hen at the moment, and she is sitting on a nest of 6 fertile eggs, so they are due to hatch, all being well, on Wednesday of this week, which will be their 21-day incubation period. But we did candle the eggs at the fortnight stage, and I think we've only got 3 viable eggs, so it looks like we're only going to get 3 chicks out of the batch of 6 fertile eggs, but that's absolutely fine for us. We don't really want many more. What we have here is just a small backyard flock of Peking bantams, so they're like little tiny chickens. You can't see their legs, they're just almost a fur ball of feathers, and they just wander around the garden, free range all day long, quite happy. If it's raining, they either bob into their hen house or under the hedgerows around the garden, and yeah, they're quite happy. And although we're fairly keen gardeners, because they have feathered feet, their breed has feathered feet, they don't like getting their feet too dirty, so they don't scrat around and damage the plants in the garden too much at all. So they're lovely little friendly creatures roaming around the garden. So there we go, everybody. I've come all the way around. I'm just going to finish off this. There we go. So I've gone all the way around the outside of my wreath, and now I'm going to finish off this thread just very quickly by weaving it through the back here, through my last couple of stitches. Whoops, a daisy. Not doing that very well. There we go. One little knot. That's a second little knot. I'm going to snip that off. Trim that down. There we go. So there we go. I'm going to pull my fabric a little bit more taut in the frame. Do a quick quilter's knot. go. And now I'm going to go in and I'm going to, as I said, do some stem stitch for some of these little twiggy bits, and where it's straight, such as there, not many places where it's straight, straighter on this side, I think. For the straight twiggy bits, I'm going to do just a simple single stitch, straight stitch. So I'm going to carry on and do that. I'm going to come up here on this one and make a start. So I'm back, everybody, and as you can see, I've done a few of the little twiggy bits down here on my wreath, and I thought I'd just stitch a few little bits on camera with you. So I'm going to pull the camera down as I usually try and do a little bit more stitching. As you can see, I've carried on with the 680 for these little twiggy bits as well. So I'm just going to put a little extra spur on this one, just an extra stitch there, just to add some interest. Just want to come up maybe about here on this one. Now I'm just going to nudge that stitch over slightly and drop down and in there. It's a cheap way to do a stem stitch, but I'm not too bothered. Just trying to get a little bit of interest going with these twigs. Now this one, by the looks of it, should be joined up to that one, but I'm not too bothered. I've done it here as well. This one could have been joined. The design didn't show me where it should have been joined, so I didn't really bother. I just did it up there. And again, I think it just adds a little bit more interest. So I'm going to do exactly the same to this piece. So I'm going to come up here. I'm just going to flip my work round. I'm going to go off to one side there, come up in there, there we go. Just going to run my thread through the back here a little bit. To get me roughly where I want to be. So I've got another little bit of a branch up here. And actually I've got a little bit just off the side there. Now that's a little bit too close to this leaf. Leaves me with quite a space in here. So I think I'm probably going to come in about there and just do some more of the twigs. So, you know, you can always vary the designs that you have to suit yourself. And if you've watched some of my previous little wreath embroideries, I've added extra bits on that weren't there on the design. I think in the last one I added on some French knots, just because I thought it might look a little bit better if I did that once I'd finished off the stitching the design. So just going to come up here, and again I'm just going to put another little spur on here, just to add some interest, just a tiny one this time. And then I'm going to take a spur off the side here. I'm not aiming for perfection at all with this stem stitch, because these are little rustic twigs and they wouldn't be absolutely smooth. I'm going to do another little spur off the side there onto this one. And then this one I'm going to make a straight stitch all the way down to there. Similarly with this one, just a straight stitch down to about there. I think I might just do a little spur off the side again, but this time take it down to the bottom, down to there. Now it looks like with this one, if I take that needle out, it looks like with this one it goes from there onto this side, so that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to take it from the other side where I've just come down so that it looks like it's all the same. I haven't got much thread here, so I'm not sure if I can get a whole branch done with this, but we'll see. And I'm just going over the top of that outline. Just to add a little bit of texture. And again, I'm just going to go off to one side there, and I'm going to do a long straight stitch here and come back down to that point. Now I haven't got any more thread here, so I'm going to end this off on the back. And this little square on my needle case comes in so handy, because when I park my needle, I either park it outside my hoop in a triangle of fabric like that, but if my needle case is handy, then I always know it's in that square and I never lose it by doing that. So let me snip off this piece of thread and thread up another needle, and I'll just carry on stitching that little portion on camera for you and speed up the recording so that you're not watching paint dry. So there we go, everybody. I've stitched this little piece. Not so happy about that gap there and this one here, so I'm just going to go in and maybe do a couple of little branches there, couple of little twigs, and similarly this area up here, I've got a leaf crossing over there. There'll be a leaf here and another one there, but I just think it might be nice to have a little branch in there, maybe continue this one on. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to do a couple of straight stitches, I think. Actually, I've just created that one into a split back stitch. And that's how easy it is to do these little wee branches. So just pop in your stitches wherever you want them, really. Just going to add a little bit more interest on this one. Maybe come down in here. Like that. Yeah, I'm liking that. And I'm not going to bother threading my thread through the back. I'm just going to jump a little bit because I'm only jumping a short distance. So I'm going to come down in here just to add a little bit of detail and fill up those blank areas. Something like that. Tiny little one in here, I think. And I'm going to connect onto this little stub down here. So I'm going to do a big stitch, maybe just a little one off to one side, like that, just to fill it up a little bit. And now I'm looking at this area down here, and that looks like it wants a little bit more. And similarly, just round here. So I'm just going to do that. Maybe if I do a little spur off to one side, that will be enough. I'm just going to audition it with my thread. Yeah, and I'm just going to go off to one side here. That should do for that. And I can always go back in and add a little bit more detail if I decide this is too blank, which I am doing at the moment. So I'm just going to work my way back. That is quite a jump, so I'm going to weave through the back a little bit. There we go. Just checking where my needle is, and that's perfect. So I'm going to just put a little stitch in here. Yeah, I'm going to connect onto this one down here. Give myself another little spur off the side of it. Yeah, maybe to that. I've come out a little bit far, so I'm going to go back in, hopefully with the same hole, and just pull in a little bit closer. I think that would be nicer. And I'm going to split that single thread there. So this is where I'm thinking this area in here looks a bit too blank to me now that I have all that detail up there. So I'm going to thread my needle through the back to get to that point. So that's all I'm going to do on this little section for now. I'm going to move on and do this little piece up here and these little pieces. I'm not going to do those on camera. I may well fill in a little bit more down here, and I'll come in when that's done and I'll show you how I'm planning to do the leaves and blackberries in the middle. Okay, so I'll be back in a moment. So here I'm just showing you some of the leaves that I've already started. I was originally going to stitch these all in one colour, a nice deep green colour, but then I decided I'd add a little bit of variation in the leaf colour. So I've actually used four different, or I will by the time I finished it, actually I've used four different shades of green. Just slight variations, but I think that just gives a little bit more depth to the colour of the embroidery here. So I wasn't sure what stitch I wanted to do, so as you can see here I'm just going in at the top of my design and doing a stitch from the top down to the centre, and then I'm going over to the other side of the design at the top and going again back down to the centre. So where those stitches cross in the middle, they create a little bit of a groove. So I actually go in with a few stem stitches up the centre of each of my leaves to create a bit of a spine. Not always going left to right or right to left with those stitches. Sometimes I need to fill in a little bit more on one side, so I might, like I've just done there, do 2 stitches or 3 stitches on one particular side. It just depends which way the leaf actually bends. I'm also not trying to keep my edges absolutely clean, because if you remember, these leaves looked a bit like beech leaves, although they weren't. They had not a smooth edge to them. They had a slight undulation or a spiky edge to the leaves. So I'm actually trying to follow the design by doing that. So I'm going to be quiet now. I'm going to leave you with a little bit more stitching, and I'll be back at the end. So this is what my design looks like now. I've stitched all those leaves. As you can see, the edges aren't smooth, they're quite raggedy. I've also gone in with a single strand of the DMC thread in the dark green to start doing some of the stems to the brambles and the thorns, as you can see there. And here I've gone in with some dark, it's almost like a dark grey, it's not quite black, to do some French knots as the blackberries. I'm imagining that my blackberry bramble isn't quite at the height of the season, which is here in September, so I've gone in with just a few random little blackberry segments at the top of my bramble branch, and then at the bottom there, or on the left hand side, which is the bottom of my branch or my bramble, I've gone in with a full blackberry, a ripe blackberry. So this is my finished piece, and yeah, I really enjoyed stitching this one. It was lovely. As I mentioned previously, this is the last of the larger wreath embroideries that I'm going to do in this little journal. I've got 2 very small ones to do, and I will do those in part 10 of this mini series, so I hope you'll join me for that. Thank you so much for watching, as always, everybody. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye now.